The NDLA is compelled to call this press briefing today because of the unfortunate development earlier last week during plenary in the Nigerian Senate when some uncomplimentary, unfounded, defamatory remarks were made against the agency. Before I continue with the subject matter, the agency would like to acknowledge the great work of the Senate towards the upliftment of Nigeria and Nigerians, and in particular, their support for the agency, especially their ongoing concerted efforts towards the amendment of the NDLA Act. I'm sure we are aware the bill for the amendment is presently before the National Assembly. Now, the incident mentioned above was widely reported in the media on Tuesday, October 15, 2024. It concerned the debate on a new bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation. Senator Oyèlọ́lá Sen Ashiru, Kwara South, reportedly said during his contribution to the debate that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is corrupt and compromised, and so on and so forth. It was a shock to read the report of the disparaging remark by the senator, which was completely unprovoked. We waited for a whole week, that is, the past 7 days, for him to clarify his position on such a weighty allegation against an institution in the country. Failing to do that, the agency has no option than to come out and set the record straight for the benefit of other distinguished members of the Senate, our local and international partners, as well as the general public. There is no doubt that setting up another agency is within the power of the Senate, and if we are invited to contribute to the debate, we will be willing to offer our opinion. While we cannot fault the power of the Senate on that, yet, for a member of the upper chamber to have made such an unfounded and unwarranted categorical statement against the agency led us to look inward to see what could have been responsible for such a carpeting general statement. What we found out was shocking, and we concluded that his statement came from a place of vendetta and certainly not out of public interest or any altruistic motive. Now, I'll give you how we came to that conclusion. The personal house of Senator Ashiru in GRA Ilorin, the capital of Kwara State, had been raided in recent past by the agency, where drugs and illicit substances were recovered, while two of his aides, Ibrahim Mohammed and Mohammed Yahaya, were arrested. Based on credible intelligence and surveillance which confirmed that the senator's house was being used as a drug joint for drug dealers and users, the house was raided by our operatives at 1:30 p.m. on February 4, 2024, during which the two aides were arrested, while a third suspect escaped arrest. In another encounter with the senator, the agency also received intelligence that some of his boys, popularly known as Omo Senator, operating from his hometown, Offa, were equally dealing in illicit drugs. A raid was subsequently carried out on their joint in Offa, where one of them, Oluwatosin Odepidan, was arrested, and illicit drugs such as methamphetamine and cannabis recovered from him. That was on June 11, 2023. The bid to get the agency to drop the case against Odepidan, including a visit to the Kwara State Command headquarters of the agency in Ilorin by the personal assistant to the senator, one Omoluabi, was rebuffed as Odepidan was promptly charged to court and prosecuted. Though the culprit jumped bail in 2023, He was rearrested in 2024 after the court issued a bench warrant for his arrest. He was eventually convicted and sentenced in June 2024, that's this year. And now this brings the link to the two officers that I have beside me. On the one hand, the officer on my right was the OC in charge of the team that raided the senator's house in Ilorin GRA when his two aides were arrested. That's in February this year. So on my left is another of our officers who actually led the operation to the senator's house. Don't forget, this is the head of the team. This is the officer that actually led the team that raided the senator's house. And I also told you that the Omoluabi, one of his boys who jumped bail when he was being prosecuted was rearrested in June this year in Offa. This is the current area commander in Offa Area Command, and so he initiated that arrest after the court issued a bench warrant for his arrest after he jumped bail. So, going by this backstory, it is deductible that these encounters that the agency has had with the senator must have been responsible for his outburst, and unfortunately false allegation, the type that nobody within and outside of government has ever leveled against NDLA before. This same agency that he wrongfully got into the headline as the most corrupt government agency in Nigeria is the same agency that has been receiving accolades from local and international bodies. Incidentally, the next day, that is the day after the senator made that disparaging statement, that's on Wednesday, October 16th, that's the next day, NDLA in Lagos commissioned a new Marine Command headquarters building built and donated by the government of the United Kingdom. A similar facility at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, was also last year donated by the same British government. We have had other facilities donated by the United States Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, that is INL, and executed by the UNODC, that's United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, in the past 12 months. We have been receiving various supports from the governments of France, Germany, and the US, among others. Suffice it to say that in the past 3 years, the NDLA has emerged as a regional leader among national drug law enforcement agencies. So come to think about it, an agency so bad-mouthed by Senator Ashiru couldn't have been attracting such international goodwill and commendation for being the most corrupt government agency in Nigeria. Against the background of our encounter with people linked to Senator Ashiru, we are wont to believe that Senator Ashiru's invectives against NDLA were born out of pure vendetta and not any opinion made in the public interest. As an agency, we have been professional in our activities and interactions with citizens as we carry out arrests daily. In the past 3 years, we've made over 52,000 arrests and got more than 9,000 convictions, including 3 life sentences this year alone. And as part of our mandate, we have engaged in over 7,000 awareness and sensitization activities in schools, worship centers, workplaces, and communities. Treatment and rehabilitation of more than 33,000 drug users, including the last 2 persons arrested in the senator's personal house in Ilorin, supported by government, organizations, and other stakeholders in the country and around the world. Outside the country, the NDLA has become a reference for drug law enforcement. Therefore, the statement by Senator Ashiru made in the country's hallowed chamber in the course of a legislative debate and made to justify the creation of another agency is motivated by malice, It is a gross misrepresentation of fact, and it is defamatory to the image of NDLA. We believe the well-meaning public, our stakeholders, and our partners can see through such a calculated mendacity. In the past 3 years, NDLA has regularly engaged the House Committee on Narcotic Drugs and the Senate Committee on Drugs and Narcotics. We've been summoned to their meetings and we have made presentations to them several times too. At no time was any grave allegation of corruption levied against us. So if Senator Ashiru has a personal grudge against NDLA, it shouldn't be cloaked as a matter of public concern. His statement on October 15, 2024, uttered in the hallowed chamber of the Nigerian Senate, is a gross abuse of his position as a legislator of the Federal Republic to undermine an agency of government by wrong accusation calculated to erode public confidence in NDLA and detract from its integrity. And we dare say that such will not deter us from our ongoing effort to dismantle all illicit drug networks across the country, including the one operating from the senator's personal residence.